Twitter, the president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms, has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause. He has been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency. What hypothetical policies might happen, I'm just not going to speak to that at this point in time.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Jazz Borgazzo here. Another episode of What's Next, your daily dose of common sense and facts. Happy Tuesday. Well, the last 24 hours have showed us that you can't pour enough gasoline on a raging fire. And that is one, Elon Musk, who, of course, purchased Twitter yesterday for $44 billion. But once this went down, the Libs, the woke mob, the media elites, and just your everyday knucklehead, of course, was going and losing their damn minds. But a particular set of, not people, but of groups, may be looking at this a little deeper than they need to be, because, of course, now they think Musk is the devil. Let's take a look. This comes out of PJ Media. Human Rights Watch, ACLU, Amnesty International clutched their pearls in horror as Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter. There has been one salutary effect of the weeks-long effort of Elon Musk gaining control of Twitter, and the debate over the freedom of speech now ensued. Now the left's foremost individuals and institutions are out in the open about their hatred of the freedom of speech. The authoritarian heart of the left has been exposed, and their war against the foundational principle of any free society, the right to express oneself, even if one's opinion don't coincide with those of the powerful and or moneyed elites. Barack and Hillary hate the freedom of speech, want you to think it's a dangerous toy, too dangerous for you to play with, and now the three pillars of the iniquitous, hypocritical left, the human rights establishment, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and American Civil Liberties Union, used to be the American Civil Liberties Union, more like the anti, have come out as well. Routers, adopting the solemn, even funeralistic tone reserved for significant leftist setbacks, noted Monday that Musk had described himself as a free speech absolutist and has called on a freedom of expression the bedrock of a functioning democracy. It's what it is. And that's why leftists are enraged that someone who believes in such things has gained control of one of the foremost means of mass communication of our age. They had become complacent in their control of such outlets, as confident of the righteousness of their power as much as a medieval king was in his divine election. And now the homogeny has been severely challenged. And so it's time to try to shape public opinion by calling out the self-appointed and reliable leftist defenders of, quote, human rights to explain to us why this is so very, very wrong. Deborah Brown, whom Reuters describes as a digital rights researcher and advocate at Human Rights Watch, asserted that regardless of who owns Twitter, the company has human rights responsibilities and respect the rights of people around the world who rely upon that platform. Changes to its policies, features, algorithms, big and small, can have disappropriate, and sometimes devastating impacts, including offline violence. Freedom of expression is not an absolute right, which is why Twitter needs to invest in efforts to keep its most vulnerable users safe on the platform. Freedom of expression is an absolute right, not just because it's constitutional, because it is a world right. You have the right to express yourself outside the midst of violence, i.e. fisticuffs, guns, what have you, but your voice should be heard no matter what side of the platform you're on. See, it's all about preventing violence, as the left relentlessly insists. Conservative speech not only leads to violence, but it itself amounts to violence. If Twitter allows freedom of speech, people are going to get hurt. This argument would have a great deal more force if Human Rights Watch had ever called out Antifa or Black Lives Matter violence, you know, those lovely peaceful protests of 2020, or if the white supremes that Biden and Merrick Garland had other leftists that keep insisting that this is the biggest terror threat the nation faces today actually showed themselves. If HRW had ever shown concerns of leftist violence against those who discern from its agenda, but HRW is not remotely consistent. It has never shown any concern for the violence that might arise from leftist speech. What's more, the warnings that speech can lead to violence ignores the fact that even the most ardent free speech advocate is not in favor of allowing free speech propaganda of actual calls for violence or illegal activity. Evans is just employing a tested tool of the left. The claim that speech is simply must be restricted because if it isn't, people are going to get hurt. This remains spectacularly unproven. Meanwhile, Anthony Romero, executive director of the ACLU, declared that the real problem is Musk himself, while Elon is an ACLU card-carrying member and one of our most significant supporters, because, of course, he is. There's a lot of danger of having so much power in the hands of one individual. Yeah. Jeff Bezos, anyone? Zuckerberg? Dorsey? Well, Dorsey used to be, of course, now he's been thrown out in the street. Yet that individual has declared his determination to let people speak whose opinions are marginalized and demonized by political and media elites. The ACLU's real concern seems to be that the cultural power that has been almost exclusively solely in the hands of the left for so long may not be exclusive property much longer. Michael Kleiman, Director of Technology and Human Rights at Amnesty International, sees trouble ahead. The last thing we need is Twitter that willfully turns a blind eye to violent and abusive speech against such users, particularly those who most disproportionately impacted, including women, non-binary persons. Of course, it was only a matter of time before that came in, and others. Right. Those who call for violence and illegal behavior should indeed be deplatformed, but the self-anointed guardians of acceptable opinion have far too long regarded any disagreement as violent, hateful, or abusive. If free society is to continue, that must end. All free people must hope that Elon can actually make this happen. If he does, the reverberations will be felt far beyond Twitter. You have three of the biggest leftist advocates for nonsense, shenanigans, and overall bullshit in society today. When you have these elitist, pompous asses who have their nose stuck up in the air who said, well, yeah, Elon's got the monies, he's got the power, but it should not all be in one person's hands. And like I just mentioned just a moment ago, you had no problem with Jeff Bezos purchasing the Washington Post. That you cheered on just a couple years back. But now Elon did the same thing with Twitter. Oh no, he's a white supreme. He is the devil incarnate. He must be stopped at all costs. Well, too late for that. Now, as we all know, changes are coming for Twitter. What those changes will be, we don't know. But in the meantime, Elon's just going to sit back, pull out that cigar, and say, yeah, y'all can suck it. And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more just like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we'll catch you guys again next time. Peace.